This happened months ago, and I still don't know if I did the right thing. My younger sister, who's still in high school, has been dating a guy we'll call Chris. Chris is a smart, charming, good-looking dude who cares a lot. I didn't like Chris at first because he was dating my little sister, and I had a hard time opening up to people. But he's a genuinely cool kid, very kind, gets good grades, plays sports, and is on a good path. He became a good friend as well. Anyway, I came home from work a few hours early, and there's a car sitting in my spot in the driveway. I didn't think much of it because she always has friends coming over. I walked in the front door and saw her with another guy in the living room. I didn't see much since they heard me open the door, and I looked away, but I saw just enough to tell what was happening. I walked down the hallway to the bathroom to take a break. It's away from the living room, and I figure that's enough time for them to get dressed. I get done, and I walked back to the living room and discovered the kid who was there was someone I went to high school with. Our age gaps aren't much. I was only 2 years older than him. This kid was a loser. He got stoned every day, smoked, got crap grades, acted like an idiot in class, and made teachers cry. Just about the biggest sack of crap you can think of in a high school kid. I asked my sister, why on earth? I started going on about how the kid's a loser and that she threw Chris away for this little idiot. Pretty much just talking crap about this idiot that's in my house. That little idiot didn't like what I said and wanted to fight me outside. I told him to get out of my house, and he refused. So I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him out of the house like a rag doll and shoved him out the front door, causing him to fall on his face. He got back up and left in his car. My younger sister is bawling her eyes out. I said she messed up her life. I asked her why did she do this, and I got no response. I'm already furious at this point, but I'm trying to keep it cool. She didn't want to respond, so I just dropped it and went to work on my truck. Parents got home a few hours later. Didn't tell them about it. They still don't know. The rest of the entire day, I debated telling Chris, since I was pretty sure my sister didn't want to. Part of me wanted to take my family's side, but felt like that wasn't the right thing to do. I called Chris that night and told him what was up. He sounded very upset and said he would break things off with my sister, which was understandable. My relationship with my sister still hasn't healed. I've maybe seen her 4 times in the past few months. Part of it's because I travel for work and work overtime. I don't like how I was involved in this, and if it were up to me, I wish I didn't go home early that day, because I do feel bad sometimes. But when I saw what was going on, I put myself in Chris's shoes and what I would have wanted if I were him. He and I are still cool and hang out sometimes. Edit. Yes, I know it sounds weird that I grabbed a high school kid and dragged him out of the house, but we did go to school together, and I had a class with him, but he refused to leave the house and wanted to fight. I'm pretty sure he's 18. Both are seniors. Not the idiot. I do think, however, you should have allowed your sister to tell Chris, stating to her that if she didn't, then you would. She did a crappy thing, and she should have had to face the outcome directly. She would still be upset with you, but she'd be upset that you pushed her to do something she needed to do instead of upset that you betrayed her. I think it's better to rip the Band-Aid off and move on. Cheaters don't come clean. In my experience, it just gets more messy. That opportunity you gave them to have a certain turnaround and personal integrity, they instead use to weasel parents and others on their side to pressure you into silence. Or they come up with some twisted half-truths and gaslight the person being cheated on. The person being cheated on is being kept in the dark, and others are being made to feel an accomplice to it. You did right by the innocent guy who was being cheated on. 100% agree. If my SO was cheating, I'd want to know ASAP so I could break up immediately. Cheating and lying about it for a long time will hurt way worse when they find out it's been going on and they've been lied to forever. Instead of wasting his life and time, he can quit wasting his time with a cheater and start to move on and find a real girl who won't betray him. My tween cousin has been living with us for 9 months. She was also in foster care for 6 months before living with us. We have a 4-bedroom house, and there's me, teen female, my brother, older teen, my sister, nearly adult, and my parents. So there wasn't an extra room for her. We're converting our old playroom to a bedroom, but until then, she's sleeping in my room because we're closest in age. Sharing a room with my cousin is exhausting. She refuses to leave the room for anything after my mom tucks her in until my mom comes to get her. So if she's hungry, scared, needs to go to the bathroom, feeling sick, etc., she always wakes me up. Then I have to go get my mom so my mom can take care of it. She also randomly hides under the bed and cries, so I have to always drop what I'm doing to go get my mom to take care of that too. The other night she woke me up because she wanted my mom. She could have gotten her herself, but she always insists on waking me up and asking me to get her. I got my mom because she could have cried all night if I didn't. Then the next morning I said it should be someone else's turn to share with her until her room is ready, and that I was sick of being woken up because she's scared to leave her room after bedtime. My dad said her room should be ready soon, and they're not moving her to another room. I said it was BS that they were making me babysit their niece all night, and my dad threatened to ground me if I didn't shut up. Am I the idiot for saying somebody else needs to share a room with her? Not the idiot. My dad said our room should be ready soon, and they're not moving her to another room. How the heck is that taking any time at all? How to convert a playroom to a bedroom? Set up a bed. You're done. So what happens if OP tells CPS about how she's losing sleep and her parents have threatened her with retribution simply for asking for a break from the burden of overnight childcare so that she can get the rest necessary for her physical and mental health? The kid should be with OP's parents. It sounds like your cousin has suffered severe trauma and needs a great deal of support. Is she in therapy? If not, she should be. It's unfair that your parents have put you in the position of being a support person for this child when you're not qualified to do so. They're ignoring the stress your cousin's situation is putting on you. Perhaps you can suggest that they get a baby monitor or a walkie-talkie for your cousin to contact your mom directly. She'll need that when she's in her own room. You're certainly not an idiot, but I think your parents aren't trying to parentify you on purpose here instead of being stressed out by the situation and can't think of better solutions. Do anything you can to get the sleep you need. Earplugs, sleeping in your sister's room, or anything you might come up with. It sucks, but moving her multiple times will just compound her trauma, and her room is nearly done. Hang in there. I, 30 female, have a young baby and just told my husband's entire family that they're not allowed around her until she's 6 to 12 months old. I made this decision without my husband, and I don't feel I'm wrong. And I refuse to backpedal from my decision, regardless of how it makes him feel. Long story short, both my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law came to see the baby last week, and a few days following this, the baby was sick, super congested, fussy, puking, etc. I brought her to the doctor. She's fine, but has an upper respiratory infection. Doctors told me to continue to breastfeed on demand, and they gave her an RSV vaccination. Well, my husband called his mom when we were leaving the doctor's, and he had her on speaker because his phone is busted and only works that way. He gives her the rundown on what's going on with the baby, and that's when she basically tells us that not only was she exposed to the flu by one of her clients, but apparently, sister-in-law's husband had the panini flu the week before her coming to see the baby. Neither of them told us this when deciding to meet our daughter. In fact, I specifically asked them if either of them was sick or around anyone who was, and they said no. So they lied to me about it and continued their facade while at my house because my husband's other sister called while mother-in-law and sister-in-law were at my home, and I told her she couldn't come over because her daughter had the flu and I wasn't chancing it. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law heard me say this on the phone and still made out like they hadn't been exposed to anything. Needless to say, I confronted them both via phone, and I was met with a, "You need to build the baby's immune system, blah, blah, blah. It's not a big deal. She'll be fine," etc. So I told them that neither of them was welcome here or around my daughter until she was 12 months old, if even then, because they're selfish as heck. My husband is furious right now. He says I'm going to isolate him and make him depressed. He has a history of depression, that he needs his family, big family man, and that I'm selfish to do this to him right before their big family holiday celebrations, Thanksgiving and Christmas. I told him I didn't care. Our daughter not becoming sick is my top priority, and his family doesn't care about that, so they aren't welcome around her. My friends also say I'm wrong because this should be my husband's decision too. OP, you're right. Sick and around a few-week-old baby? What did they think? Sorry, hubby, baby girl first. Honey, does your husband have more family members besides the lying mother-in-law and sister-in-law? Because you only cut those two out, not his entire family. For real, he needs to go visit family on his own and cleanse himself appropriately after visitations. If he needs to be around them that bad, then he needs to take the proper steps to also keep his baby safe. Good job, OP. Don't back down. Keep your child safe. As the father, he should also prioritize keeping his child safe over feelings. He's responsible for his own mental health and needs to navigate that appropriately. I don't think it's fair to your husband to cut off his family. I'd recommend a compromise with him. His family needs to mask and wash up before any contact with the baby. If your husband doesn't support that, I'd return to the full no contact decree. Do you actually believe people as selfish as OP's in-laws will mask up or wash up if asked? They deliberately exposed a newborn to illness. This is a screw around and find out moment for these people. Not the idiot. Your infant daughter comes before selfish people, including family. Dear husband can go see his family all he wants, and you and baby girl can stay home and away from disrespectful people. I proposed to my fiancé a few weeks ago, and we're engaged. I didn't think anyone would have any reason to object. We're both 30 years old. We've been together since May of 2021 and have lived together since May 2022, and we're employed. We aren't too young, our relationship isn't new, and we don't rely on family for money. But my parents did object to the timing. My sister has a boyfriend. They've been together for a long time. Their relationship started around the time I finished university, and that was in the year 2016. They aren't married. I don't know why he hasn't proposed. He and her are in a similar situation to myself and my fiancé. They're both 29 years old, employed, and not financially reliant on others. I don't know why he hasn't proposed yet, however. His reasons are none of my business. When I told my parents about my engagement, they were upset. I didn't tell a soul I was going to propose. I didn't think or realize I needed to. My parents said they talked to my sister's boyfriend about him proposing, and he said he would think about it. My parents told me he said he wants marriage and isn't against it. However, he still hasn't proposed to my sister yet. My parents said they wished I had waited because they believed a proposal to my sister was imminent. If that's true, I don't know why that means I can't get engaged also. A few months ago, my sister told us that her boyfriend's brother got engaged. By my parents' logic, that means her boyfriend can't get engaged right now. However, when I pointed that out to my parents, they said it was different. When my sister learned about my engagement, she cried because she was so upset. We have an older sister. She's 34 years old. No one acted like this when she got engaged. She was already married, had my nephew, and was pregnant with my niece when my younger sister met her boyfriend. Both my sister and I were single and much younger when she got engaged, and we were both happy for her. My older sister and my brother-in-law and niece and nephew are the only people in my family who are happy about my engagement. Even my grandparents agreed with my parents. It's not as though I can take back the ring and tell everyone the engagement is off. Not that I would anyway. However, it's too late for that. Since my family's acting this way, my fiancé and I have decided to forego having a wedding. I made sure my fiancé was fine with this decision and wasn't just agreeing for my sake. She only has her dad, and he's like my older sister, as opposed to the rest of my family. We'll just have to go to the registry office and fill out the necessary documents, and that's all. We invited my sister and brother-in-law and her dad to witness this if they want, and we'll be going to the registry office on the morning of November 23rd, next month. My parents and grandparents were angry about this. I don't know if it's because we're not having a wedding, because they're not invited, or because I'm not going back on my engagement. I want to know if this makes me the idiot. Same with me saying that even if my sister has a proposal coming, it's not my problem and doesn't mean I can't propose. It may seem obvious, but I've never gone against my parents before, and their being upset makes me feel guilty sometimes. Not the idiot. They've been together for 7 years. If he wanted to marry her, wouldn't he have asked by now? You and I both know that your sister's boyfriend will never propose. If you waited until he did, you'd never get married. Your life is your life. Your sister's is hers. There's no rule about engagement order. Congratulations, and I hope you have a happy married life. Tell your family that even if your sister got engaged tomorrow and married next week, you and your fiancé will always remember how they behaved regarding your engagement and marriage. They can't take this back. Their short-term fixation about you not getting married so it'll force your sister's boyfriend to propose won't always be urgent, and when it's done, they still have to deal with the consequences of how poorly they welcomed your wife to the family. They need to pull up their big kid panties now and realize their civilized manners. I wouldn't be surprised if your sister's boyfriend ended up leaving because of all the games and pressure from her family. I, male 48, have been friends with James and Annie since we were teenagers. They got together in their late 20s and swiftly had kids, including a daughter, Emily, now 19. James and Annie were kind of crazy as teenagers, in their 20s. Both of them were at every party, taking drugs, having casual intimacy, and lots of boyfriends and girlfriends, which is their choice. As parents, they were very relaxed and honest with their children about their lifestyle. Now Emily's traveling and clearly doing the same. She posts a lot on Instagram, demonstrating this. In addition, my daughter, same age, has said that she's very fun. Recently, we all went out for dinner, me, my wife, James, and Annie. Naturally, we talked about our kids. Mine are at college and working. They were talking about Emily and how they think she's being young and it's her time of life to do it. I said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess. James asked what I meant, and I said, well, she seems to have a lot of boyfriends and parties. James got mad and asked me to not speak about his daughter's friends. Subsequently, Annie texted my wife and said it was an inappropriate comment. Am I the idiot for saying it? Yeah, you are the idiot. Dude, why the heck would you even say that? I'm genuinely asking why you're so concerned about their daughter's life exactly. This is none of your business, and you need to stop making comments about things that have nothing to do with you, especially children of other people. Note the comparison to his own kids going to college and working sounds denigrating, like my kids are better. This is hilarious because his kids are doing the exact same crap. They just aren't open about it because they know how he is. By the way, a 48-year-old man scanning a young woman's Instagram and feeling so concerned about her behavior? Insert massive eye roll. Your choice of words is one thing, but your tone is revealing. It sounds like you are judgmental and jealous of the life experiences these people and their daughter are having. Your children said she was fun. Why are you looking at her Instagram post if you disagree? You seem oblivious to your rudeness and judgmentalism. Learn some manners. For starters, my husband has parental issues. He was abandoned by his biological parents and put into foster care as a toddler. He's never had a stable home, as he was bounced around different families until he turned 14, then spent 4 years in a group home. When we met, my family took to him very fast, and he and my mother, 54, specifically developed a close relationship. For Mother's Day last year, he gave my mom a card and wrote a message before thanking her for treating him like a son. He said she was the mom he had always dreamt about having. It was sweet. I never minded him treating her as if she was his mother. However, my mom is very extra. She wants to be involved in our lives a bit too much, which my husband only supports. She loves coming over to cook for us or inviting us to her house for dinner. When our child was born, her wanting to be around intensely increased. I appreciated her help, but being at our house almost 24/7 got on my nerves, as I felt like she was invading our privacy. I established boundaries with her and told her she could only come over when invited. I didn't invite her over for a few weeks, which upset her. I also declined the numerous invites to her house. She was involved in a serious accident that shattered her leg between Thanksgiving and Christmas. She needed constant care while she recovered, which none of my sisters could provide due to their jobs. After our daughter was born, I became a stay-at-home mom and was expected to care for my mother. I declined and received much scrutiny from both my family and my husband. Finally, she had no other choice but to be transferred to a rehabilitative facility. Everything was fine until reports circulated about the facility 2 weeks ago, which resulted in 2 caregivers and the director being arrested. My husband freaked out and said we needed to get her out of there. However, the incident that occurred didn't involve my mother's side. It was the memory care unit. My mom has been treated just fine. My husband got my sisters involved, which of course supported him. I was very adamant that she could not come to our house. The next thing I knew, our guest bedroom and bath had been cleaned up. I again told my husband I was not going to allow this. Lo and behold, he arrives home with my mother. I was absolutely angry. He said it would be fine as my sisters made a schedule to come over and care for her between their work schedules. So great. Now I have my sisters invading my privacy too. I told my husband he married me, not me and my mom. I told him to stop bending over backward for her and trying to please her. I expressed how I felt, that he was trying to compete with me, and my mom right now is gloating about that. All he could say was, "This is your mother, and you have obviously shown her that you don't care." My sisters are livid with me and said that I'm a crappy daughter and could learn how to treat a parent from my husband. My boundaries have been completely violated. Not the idiot. What is wrong with your husband? It's one thing for him to talk to her and send her cards, but moving her into your house against your express wishes is bananas. What is wrong with these people? You're absolutely right to feel like your boundaries have been completely violated. Hubby needs some therapy to talk about his trauma. I totally understand that it makes his inner child happy that he finally found a mom, but this kind of compensation for the lack he experienced is only helpful and healthy to a certain degree. And at this point, he damages you in your relationship for the sake of being a good son to your mother. He's absolutely the idiot for bringing your mother into your house without your permission. Your sisters are also idiots for judging your daughterhood, while they can hide behind their jobs and other excuses while mom isn't at their house. But your telling him apparently isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. All I can suggest is that you focus on caring for your child and absolutely do no more than 25% of the care for your mother, with sisters and hubby doing the rest. Can you please explain why OP has to do no more than 25% of the caring, when in fact she should be doing 0% of the caring? She doesn't want her mother there. She told her husband not to bring her there. He went against her wishes and did just that. OP, sit him down and tell him you will not have your privacy invaded. And if she's not out in 7 days, you'll be taking the baby and going to a friend's house. My dad is a huge idiot. My mom comes off as very sweet, but she chooses to stay with him. She's not financially dependent or afraid of him. It took me a while to see it, but I guess she isn't that great either, because if she was, she sure as heck wouldn't be with him. My father promised us all a family vacation in February. My siblings and I decided on Turks and Caicos and have been planning it ever since. Needless to say, my kids were excited. Note, I don't truly think my dad gets what a big deal this is, as he's always on vacation. My dad does not like my wife, never has. And over Christmas, he became irate over what we got my mom for Christmas and how mother-in-law got a lot more from us. He even uninvited us from the trip and berated us. Our kids are devastated, but I don't think he even considers them. My mom came over today to drop off a gift that arrived late for our son. The kids were very upset about the trip and didn't want to see her. She claimed she felt bad and said she'd talk to him for the kids. My daughter told my son that maybe it would work because my mom is nice even if my dad isn't. My wife was annoyed by this and corrected our daughter. She said my mom isn't nice. She's weak and selfish, and nice people don't stay married to not nice people. And if you really want to be nice, you have to put the right thing before what makes you happy. My mom was clearly shocked. She turned to me and asked if I would treat her like that. I shrugged and said she was right. My mom told me to screw off and left. We're still uninvited from the trip and banned from their house, and my dad sent us a nasty message and said we'll never get anything from him again. Am I the idiot for not defending my mom? OP, please explain how accepting a free vacation from a huge idiot makes you any different than the woman who stays with said idiot. You are the idiot, as is your wife, and huge hypocrites as well. How incredibly ironic that your wife would say this, and you'd support her. So it's weak and selfish for your mother to remain married to a not nice person, but it's perfectly fine for you and your family to go on vacation with that same not nice person. I disagree. It's everyone's the idiot here. The wife got more presents for her mother than her mother-in-law. That seems pretty normal to me. She did her job by getting a present. It's petty as heck to be upset you didn't get the same treatment as someone's mother. Also, where was the son in all of this? Why are they mad at the wife for treating her mom, but not at the husband for not gifting his own mother more presents? How is this all on the wife? And who uses Christmas presents as a barometer for whether or not to bring them on a family vacation? They're throwing shade at his mom for staying with his dad, but have no issues with paid vacays. Super hypocritical. It's also suspicious that OP used to think his mom was sweet. She appears sweet, and the only thing wrong she does is stay married to his dad. Seems to me as though the wife is emotionally manipulative of OP and has convinced him that his own mother's not the sweet woman he grew up with, but is this monster for staying married to the idiot, who's probably only an idiot because he calls the wife out on her BS. OP hasn't said what makes the dad an idiot. It seems like the wife is the biggest idiot, and OP's being alienated from his family because of her. You are the idiot, OP. I don't like your wife either. My fiance and I have been together for about 3 years, and we're scheduled to get married sometime in 2025, so we have the time to save up for a wedding. He has 2 kids, a son, kindergartner, and a daughter, pre-tween. Recently, he was talking about how cool it would be to have his kids in the wedding party because he has full intentions of having his son be one of his groomsmen. I hadn't even considered having his daughter be a part of my wedding party. It's not like I don't like her. She's an incredibly sweet and caring girl, and I truly love her to bits, but I have a lot of friends, and it was already hard to narrow down who I wanted to be in this wedding party with me, and I don't really want to have to kick out another friend for his daughter. When I told him this, he got really upset, saying it's not fair that his son gets to be in the wedding party and his daughter doesn't. But I don't truly see that as my problem because he's the one including his son in the wedding party. So I told him his daughter could be the flower girl, as I do want her included, but he said she'll be too old for that by then, which I don't get because she'd only be a tween. Maybe that's too old, I'm not sure. Now he's kind of giving me the cold shoulder and talking about how I don't care about his kids, which is truly not the case. I just don't want her to be a bridesmaid. I want it to be people I've been friends with my entire life. Does that make me an idiot? You are marrying someone who has children. They will be a part of his life forever. Why are you working so hard not to include them in his day? Because it's not all about the bride. You are the idiot if you don't figure out how to include his daughter. And if you can't, find someone without kids. I'm with you. Even if they each already had 10 people on each side standing up for them, I'd find a way to make it 11. If they had 16, I'd find a way to make it 17. No place is a good place to exclude her. But the wedding? Tisk tisk. Besides, I've never been to a wedding where I counted the number of people in the wedding party. Heck, my friend's younger sister was her flower girl, and she was pregnant and in her 20s. She was dressed like a bridesmaid, went to all the functions, and stood with us during the ceremony. I'd totally be the flower girl for someone, and I'll be 35 soon. People think way too hard about these things and how they should be. She's not going to be the same as all your friends. Your fiance doesn't expect her to go to the bachelorette or plan a shower or something. Just wear a cute dress, walk down the aisle with her brother, hold a bouquet, and feel special getting her hair and makeup done. Don't think of it as replacing someone, basically just a match for her brother. You could also suggest she be a groomswoman, stand on dad's side. I still highly suggest having her get her hair and makeup done with you, though. That sounds so special for a teenage girl, whether she's a bridesmaid, groomswoman, or not. I, 34 female, have 3 kids, a young male, a male preschooler, and a female toddler. We live in a 3-bed, 2.5-bath condo, and we have my sons in one room and my daughter in another. We also have a loft area with 2.5 walls. One side has a wall maybe 3.5 or 4 feet tall, and another side is open. I have a half-sister, tween, that needed a place to stay. She was in an emergency foster home, and either my husband and I had to take her in, or she had to go to a foster home. We've never met her. I didn't even know she existed, but I didn't want her to end up in foster care, so we took her in. My husband wanted her to share a room with our daughter, but I thought living with strangers was hard enough on her, and she'll need her own space. We ended up moving our daughter into our son's room, but that didn't work out well. Our daughter can't sleep without a sound machine and a nightlight, and the boys can't sleep with them. They also have different bedtimes. Putting the boys to bed always woke her up. My husband wanted to put her back in her old room, but I didn't think that would be a good situation for either of the girls. I ended up moving her bed into the loft, and her clothes and changing table are in my room. The half wall is too high for her to climb. Her toys were already there, and we can put a divider or a curtain there if this becomes a long-term thing. My husband came home and saw this and was furious that I moved our daughter into the loft instead of letting her share a room with my half-sister. This was around 3 weeks ago. My daughter is fine in the loft. I painted it for her, got some princess wall decals, and organized the toys to leave more room for her bed and everything else I brought from her room. To say my sister isn't adjusting well is an understatement. She's tried to run away twice, and she had a breakdown and destroyed everything in her room last week. My husband has mentioned calling the social worker and sending her to a foster home since she got here. However, the past few days have been better. I haven't had to pick her up early from school this week. She's leaving her room for meals, and she's starting to talk to me. My husband still thinks that this isn't working out. He refuses to let our daughter stay in the loft and says my sister shouldn't be around the kids. I told him if he sends her to a foster home after she's just starting to feel comfortable here, the kids and I are leaving. We've been arguing again because he wants to send her to a home, and he actually said part of the reason is that he wants to get our daughter back into her room. He got his family calling me a bad mom for prioritizing some random girl over my kids. Am I the idiot for putting my daughter in the loft to make room for my sister and not sending her to a foster home? You are the idiot. This affects your whole family, and it sounds like you made the decision lightly and without talking to your husband about it. Her presence and behavior will affect your kids. She's essentially a stranger to everyone, and you have small children. That makes me super uncomfortable. She sounds like she needs way more emotional and behavioral support than the typical. Here is a very short list of situations where you can threaten to take your kids and not be the idiot. This isn't one. You're making unilateral decisions that affect him and your children, and you don't get to do that. His concerns are valid. If she's destroying her belongings, trying to run away, and having breakdowns, she needs intensive therapy, and I worry about the safety of a toddler around her. Why is it the half-sister in the loft room? It would be safer for a preteen than a literal toddler. Generally, CPS requires foster kids to have a room with a door lock that the child, can control. But a toddler should never be in a loft unsupervised, since, quote, her toys were already there. It sounds like she may have had unsupervised loft time before this incident too. So instead, the toddler should be in the parents' room while they search for a new place to live. OP, your intentions are sweet, but your priorities should lie with your husband and your kids. My fiancée and her son recently moved in with me. My kids are here every other week, and I told them their routine wouldn't change. The room I gave to my soon-to-be stepson used to be the guest room, and nothing about my kids' room changed at all. My kids have been adjusting pretty well to new people, and I was happy with how things have been going. Well, my fiancée said that my kids have been bullying her son by talking about him in Urdu. I asked how she could possibly know if they were talking about him, and she said that they talked in front of him in a language he couldn't understand, so they must be talking about him. I think that's a stretch. She said, regardless, it hurts his feelings and needs to be stopped. I said, no, I couldn't tell them what language to speak. She said to tell them not to speak it when he's around. But he lives here now, so he's always around. It isn't a reasonable request and will just create animosity between the children. He needs to get used to occasionally hearing a language he doesn't know. I got used to it. She said that that was my choice, but not really. You can't expect everyone to always speak your language. Edit. They learned Urdu as infants, just like they did English. It's one of their mother tongues. They speak English to him just like they do me, but sometimes they speak in Urdu in front of him when he isn't being spoken to. They also do this to me and always have. It has never bothered me. Come on. You are the idiot. It sounds like you've got two kids who speak a language that nobody else in the house does, and who are relying on that to support each other. One more that can sometimes talk to them, who's stressing out about what's going on, and you don't care what they're saying? You're neglecting everything, kinda. This is maybe an everyone's idiot here. Your fiancé's being a bit dramatic, calling this bullying, assuming they're not actually talking about your son in front of him. And you're right, he can get used to hearing another language that he doesn't know, nor does she control whether they speak Urdu in a house or not. But if they only speak Urdu to each other in front of your stepson, and he's always on the outs, unable to participate, that's not fun either. It creates an us and them dynamic that I assume you don't want in your house. So you don't need to tell them stop speaking Urdu entirely, but if it's the only language they speak around him, could you have a conversation with them about that? Exactly. I don't think this is just about Urdu. It sounds like your stepson is feeling left out and upset, and that should concern you, whether or not a particular person is at fault. Blending families is tricky, but your fiancé is a major idiot. Assumptions of bullying just because the step speaks a different language, forbidding them from speaking their language to each other at home.